London, early winter. The city was cloaked in leaden gray, damp, cold, and solitary. A fine drizzle fell, as if time itself was slowing down for something unspoken. Among the hurried crowds at Paddington Station, a figure stood still as a statue. Emily Rivers, 23 years old, tall and thin, with skin pale from lack of sunlight. Her long chestnut hair was hastily tied at the nape of her neck. A few strands escaped, wet with rain, clinging to her cheek. She wore an old backpack with frayed straps, her train ticket trembling slightly in her cold hand, her face delicate but drained of all color. Her gray eyes stared blankly at the railway tracks, aimless, empty, no sorrow, no anger, just nothing left to hold on to. She had once been a literary editor, loved classical literature, adored Sylvia Plath and Virginia Woolf, and lived alone in a small Bloomsbury apartment filled with old books. But 6 weeks ago, her mother died in a car accident. Since then, Emily stopped answering emails, locked her social media accounts, and quit her job. She lived like a ghost. Then one morning, without telling anyone, she booked a one-way ticket out of London, as if fleeing from herself. The train pulled out of the station. Through the rain-streaked window, patchy fields rolled by. Withered grass, broken fences, black crows soaring into the mist. Emily sat alone. Her gray sweater was pulled up to her neck, her hands clasped, hugging herself. Her gaze followed the streaks of rainwater on the glass, as if tracing her own inescapable thoughts. Destination, Lake District. Not for vacation, but to disappear. A secluded forest community known as the Path of Light. No real names, no internet, no phones, no mirrors, only meditation, candlelight, silence, and Jonathan, the man known as the Shepherd. Emily had found the place through a handwritten flyer in a cafe. It promised something she couldn't quite say out loud. Let go of the past, step into the light, rebirth of the self. She didn't believe it, but she had nothing left to lose. The wooden cabin sat tucked into the edge of the forest, lit only by flickering candlelight. No TV, no electricity. Everything was simple, as if time had stopped. Jonathan, 34, tall with light brown hair, deep-set eyes, and a voice like honey poured into dusk, took Emily walking around Lake Windermere. The water was still, like a mirror of memory. They didn't speak much, only walked, but every glance, every silence made Emily feel seen. By the firelight, Jonathan said,
"My younger brother hanged himself. I survived, and I found the light."
Emily listened silently, her heart aching. Meals were taken in silence. Everyone meditated for hours in the wooden hall. When Jonathan asked her to surrender her devices, she hesitated, then agreed. Slowly, she detached from her old life, even from her sister, the only person who remained in her world. And every time she faltered, Jonathan would simply whisper,
"Fear is a sign you are about to step into truth."
Full moon night, the pine forest held its breath. Wind swept through the branches, cold and whispering. Inside the ritual room, hundreds of white candles flickered, casting a pale, flickering glow. No electricity, no music, only thick incense in the air, clinging to the stone walls, to the robes, to the hair. A round mat lay in the center, coarse brown fabric rimmed with salt. At its center, a tall wooden chair and a silver electric shaver, placed ceremonially, like an offering. Emily entered slowly, barefoot, in a long white robe, head bowed, her hair falling down her shoulders. The devotees sat in a circle, silent, eyes closed, hands over their hearts. The candlelight made their faces appear pale, surreal. The whole scene resembled something ancient,
part ritual, part sacrifice. Jonathan approached. He was barefoot, cloaked in gray, holding a bowl of sacred water. His face was calm, eyes deep, but Emily no longer felt safe. When he placed his hand on her shoulder, she flinched, not from cold, but because her intuition whispered, "Something is wrong." Jonathan leaned in close and whispered,
Hair is memory. It is the shell of the self, the last thread that binds you to sorrow.
He nodded, and a female devotee stepped forward, her eyes void of emotion, and turned on the shaver. A sharp buzzing sound filled the room. No one moved, but the air suddenly grew colder, like a knife waiting to cut. Emily opened her eyes. Everyone else remained still. Their eyes closed. Only she was awake and afraid. She started to rise. Jonathan gently kept his hand on her shoulder. His voice was soft, but not kind.
If you walk away now, you will forever remain outside the circle of light.
Emily froze. The first lock of hair dropped to the floor. It wasn't just hair. It was the last remaining trace of the person she used to be. She trembled, cold, confused.
I don't know.
She whispered. Jonathan tightened his grip slightly and said,
You are not afraid. It is the ego struggling to die. That is how you know you are close to rebirth.
The shaver buzzed on. Long strands of her hair were pulled away and fell onto her robe. Emily closed her eyes, not in surrender, but from exhaustion. A single tear slid down her cheek and landed on Jonathan's hand resting on her forehead. She knew she hadn't truly consented, but all the eyes around her, though closed, were waiting. She was the ritual, the symbol, the belief. When the blade passed over her scalp for the final time, clearing the last strand of hair, something inside her shattered. Jonathan touched her bald head, softly like a benediction.
Welcome to the light.
The room chanted in unison, but Emily heard none of it. She looked at her hand, clutching a small piece of hair, and knew she'd just lost something that could never be reclaimed. Early morning, fog in the air. The wooden room was damp and cold. The smell of spent candles and incense lingered. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, hunched, hands clenched in her lap. On the wall, a foggy mirror reflected her new image. Bald, with blotchy scalp and swollen eyes. She looked, turned away, then looked again. She couldn't help it. She needed to see. She couldn't believe it was real. She knelt, lifted the floorboards. An old phone wrapped in cloth, hidden like hope, lay beneath. She turned it on with trembling hands. The screen lit up. 78 missed calls. The first message read,
Emily, please answer. That place is being investigated for religious manipulation. They call it a spiritual rehabilitation camp. You have to leave immediately.
Behind her, the door creaked open. Jonathan entered. Linen robe, warm tea, soft voice.
Your first day in your new form, he said gently. Feels like rebirth, doesn't it?
Emily stood up, didn't take the tea. She looked at him. For the first time, truly looked at him. It was all performance, every smile, every move. She tightened her robe. Her voice cracked, but struck.
No, it feels like being flayed alive without being at.
Jonathan paused, then smiled again. She stepped forward, eyes sharp.
You didn't heal me, Jonathan. You took my wounds and turned them into chains.
Silence, candlelight flicker.
You call it light, but it's just a prison with the lights on.
A flash of lightning outside. No thunder, only Jonathan's soft sigh. He placed the teacup down slowly, but his hands clenched white. She didn't flinch. What you call faith, she whispered, is just fear of abandonment wrapped in a sermon. Jonathan didn't respond, but in his eyes something had changed. No longer the healer, but the predator. The shadows lengthened. His posture shifted, not a guide, but a tyrant on the edge.
You think you're the first to run?
He snapped.
They always come back. No one wants them out there. You'll disappear. A nobody.
Emily's voice trembled, but she stood tall.
I don't need to be wanted. I just need to leave.
Jonathan shouted. The teacup shattered, scalding her robe. She didn't blink.
You leave. He snarled. You lose everything. No light, no darkness. Just emptiness.
Emily's voice was quiet, firm. Better than staying here and losing myself. Jonathan turned, but his eyes now burned, no longer calm, but dangerous. Late at night, Jonathan sat in his room, yellow light casting dust. He opened the black notebook. Inside, a list of names. Last page, Emily, under suspicion. He picked up the phone, voice quiet.
She's starting to waver. Don't interfere. Watch her. Tell no one.
Outside, rain fell. Daniel, the loyal devotee, stood waiting. He nodded. 2:41 a.m. Emily crawled out the meditation window. No shoes, no hair, a bundle in her hands, her phone and notebook. She ran through the forest. Branches ripped her robe. Fear drove her. Footsteps. She turned. Daniel, eyes blink.
Emily, come back. It's not too late.
You'll tie me up? Drag me back?
She asked.
You won't survive.
He said.
There's no one waiting for us.
Emily laughed, bitter. And here, a bald head and no self left. Daniel blinked, then dropped his radio.
Run!
He whispered. She ran. Sirens blared. Flashlights surged. She fell, got up, blood on her knees, still ran. The forest opened, a foggy road, a truck, an old driver sipping coffee. He saw her.
Do you need help?
She nodded, crying.
Please, just take me away.
He opened the door. Get in. Don't look back. She did. She moved. The coat disappeared. She had left everything behind. Jonathan, the rituals, her hair, her faith, herself. 6:17 a.m. A roadside cafe. Old jazz music. Emily sat alone in the corner. Still bald. Still silent. Her fingers wrapped around a cup of tea. On the table, her notebook. She opened it and wrote, "Letting go isn't vanishing. It's surviving. Choosing yourself, even when broken." A waitress placed a napkin beside her. No questions. No stares. Emily touched her scalp. The skin gleamed, a wound unhealed. Still breathing. She breathed in. Not peace, not joy, but something better. Freedom for the first time, and finally her own.